Hosted by Mike Wood, only on the Purple Acorn Network.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of My First Job. I'm your host, Mike Wood, and we are joined today by the first influencer slash TikTok influencer that I've ever met, Joel Lalgee.
It's great to be here, Mike. It's been great getting to know you the past few days.
Yes, we've been living in the same house.
We've had
the Purple Acorn headquarters.
Yeah, Purple Acorn headquarters. It's a lot of fun, but good to be here with you.
Yeah, and so Joel came in yesterday. You said you got up at 2:30 in the morning.
2:30 in the morning. Yeah.
Had the conference all day. Stayed up till probably about like 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
But like obviously you're exhausted. And
tired.
You got up this morning at like 6 o'clock and was like the happiest person I've ever seen.
I'd been up since 4, but because I'm like a 2-hour time difference, so it was like 6 a.m. But it's good.
But I do
coffee.
The coffee is good. We have our pretty much our real world house.
Yeah, we got bacon.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I burned some bacon yesterday. But yeah, so I wonder your first job.
Yeah.
What was it? Because you're a younger guy. I want to hear what that first job was.
All right. So my first job. So number one, I'm from the UK originally. So,
really?
Yeah. So when I moved over here, I couldn't actually get a legal job. So I had to get a cash in hand job. Right.
Wait. So how old were you when you moved over?
So I was 12 when I moved here, and then 15 was around the time that I started working. But I didn't have a green card, so I had to get the cash in hand job. So I had a friend whose dad was basically a slumlord. So he had like 100 apartments in town. And I just became like the demo guy. Like
the hired immigrant what immigrant labor that comes in.
Whatever you need. So I'm talking wiping the wall, with tobacco to get it clean so we could paint on it. Bombing the house for roaches. Like, it was bad. And then just random demo jobs. And so, yeah, that was the first job.
People normally come to the U.S. for a better life. And it seems like
England was bad.
There are no slums out
You should have seen my job in England. It was a lot worse. No, my family at that time, they moved over, so I didn't really have a choice.
Yeah.
But I was regretting the move when I got the slumlord job. I'm like, oh, you own apartments? This will be a good job. And next thing you know, it's like I said, demo, painting, just anything this guy needed.
Well, they don't have a sign out front that says this is a slum.
No.
It's just like, oh, wow, he owns all these apartment buildings. Yeah. He must be great. And
nope. Well, he changed the rule, for the rentals that he had to ask for people to have a vacuum. That's how bad these houses were.
Oh, God. Okay, this sounds awful.
Yeah, it was bad.
How did you get out of it? Like, were you legally allowed to get out of it, or were you trafficked to different places?
No, I quit at that point. It all kind of came to a head. Like, we actually had somebody in one of the houses, something terrible happened, and I was involved in the cleanup, and it actually just got too much. I was like, I can't do this job anymore.
Yeah, like the people that you imagine the people that have to clean up like crime scenes and stuff like that.
I mean, it was about that bad.
And you're like 16 at the time.
I was 16.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so I did that, and then and then when I was able to get my first legal real job, it was Starbucks. So
cool.
Same thing.
A barista.
Yeah, I was a barista. Yeah.
What did you remember? Like the worst orders that you would get, like 16 pumps of caramel, or?
Yeah, I remember a lot of that, and I remember my first day in particular at Starbucks. I never drank any coffee before working at Starbucks, and they were like, "Can you do the pastry tray?" And I'm like, I don't know how to do this. I'm like, it's my first day. It's 4 a.m. We're getting ready for the morning shift.
Yeah.
And I just remember my trainer looking at me and being like, how do you not know how to set up a pastry tray? I'm like, I've never been here before. You're supposed to train me.
Yeah, I don't know how to set up a pastry tray. Well, actually, I might, because we have a pastry tray right here.
Perfect. I love that.
But so I'm from the Northeast, from the Boston area, and there's Dunkins everywhere.
Yeah,
so everybody just goes to Dunkin' or whatever. But I have seen some crazy orders.
Oh yeah,
and it's just like 8 creams,
espresso pumps. Extra,
it's just
it's bad.
Everybody is getting diabetes from coffee.
I was serving up diabetes every morning. But yeah, it was a weird culture because the culture there too was it probably still is. I mean, obviously, Starbucks that hasn't changed that much, I don't think. But
But
it was
back
like,
then it wasn't as like you could sit there and do
Yeah.
work, and it was more like a kind of like escape. Now it's there's packed with tons of people.
yeah, and
the
I
time.
think it was like people just expected you to know like their order. Like they'd pull up and they'd just be like, "Hey," like, "Hey," and they're like, "Do you know what I want?" I'm like, "It's my first day. I did not know what you want." And then they would get
Yeah.
just like annoyed with you, and
Yeah,
so
I got
so
another
slum
vanilla
yard to
bullshit
Starbucks.
for Joel.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know? I'm like, no, I've never met you before. So yeah, I went from the slums to Starbucks. So
Nice.
It was nice.
Oh, okay. So that's you. It's like kind of going to war. Like you've had these experiences.
I never want to work again. That's what.
All right. So did you go to college?
I
after
did.
that?
I
Okay.
did.
What did you want to be when you were in college?
So I went for finance because I think I just had this idea in my mind that if you study money, you'll get money, and so it
If
kind of
you're
makes
around
sense.
it, some of it is bound to come to you.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, it was kind of crazy. I went to school in 2008, and so I was in a finance class, and we're watching like obviously the markets, like absolutely, the whole financial meltdown. So I'm like learning about this stuff while it's happening. So that was actually kind of a crazy time to be in school. And then it's like I got that degree, and it was just so hard. It's a similar time to now in terms of like the job market.
Yeah.
And so I was like coming out of college in 2011 is when I graduated, and it was man. It was
So what
tough
did
to find
you
work.
do? Like
I went and worked at a really ethical company called Wells Fargo.
oh, nice. That's another good place to be around that time.
You can tell I've had a lot of luck with my work. So yeah, I worked at Wells Fargo for like 5 years, and
If something bad has happened in the world, Joel was likely
I was
involved.
there. And then I got into so after 5 years at Wells Fargo. Actually, I worked at a different bank then for about a year, and then a friend. Shout out to my friend Jonathan Reynolds over at Titus Talent. He got me into recruiting, and he just came up to me and he was like, "Dude, I started a recruiting company. You should come work." I'm like, "I've never recruited." He's like, "I will teach you. I will teach you how to do it." And so I,
You're like,
got
I know
into
how to do a
recruiting.
pastry tray, though.
I was like, if you need help with pastry trays, you got me. If you need help with cleaning tobacco off walls, I got you. And so he got me into recruitment.
And so, like, now you're like kind of like an influencer. You're on your own,
Yeah.
and we were talking. I missed the whole TikTok bandwagon. I'm older.
Still have not missed it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but I just like never really got into it. But you're like your videos are all over the place.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think we were talking about like you first started to kind of put yourself out there, and your company was like, eh.
Yeah, I mean that same company. So Titus, shout out to Jonathan. Keep shouting out Jonathan, but I started posting, and I think at first everybody I worked with just kind of like, "What are you doing?" And it's like when someone starts showing up online that I think that's a lot of the reaction. Maybe not so much anymore, but at that point, it wasn't really a thing. But I just enjoyed it, and I think I found a creative outlet. And then obviously, like for recruitment, for sales, any of this stuff really, really helps with awareness. So the timing of it, I think, was right. But I will say the timing for any of the content stuff is like right now. So it's like I know everything seems saturated, but it's not. It's if you have good content people want to engage with, you're never too late.
So, like, what's your average day on like putting all this content out there?
Get ready with me.
Yeah, I'll get ready.
I wake up and I have I got a yoga studio in my house. No, so I think for me, like I'm a big family guy, so I got 3 kids under 5. So first thing I do in the morning, get my oldest to school, and then my youngest, I usually sit with him, feed him his food. I probably start work around 8 to 8:30, and it's a mix between videos, catching up with the news. I got a couple of live shows that I do. Shout out to the HR Morning Show on Purple Acorn. But yeah, a lot of content that's usually like the morning time. Still do sales, like somewhat sales, like reaching out, making new connections with people,
following up with people that you've met in person. Yeah.
And then I'd say the afternoon's some mixed bag. It's like I still do some recruiting as well. So I recruit for construction companies. So that
cool.
kind of.
But you're building your little empire.
Yeah.
You're building. I mean, we're talking like you start off with content, and you start it just keeps rolling up, and now you're at a point where it's starting to take off.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
Yeah.
And you're still like so young and like go get your bag 22. Of cash.
I'm only 22.
No, he's not. So I also have to ask you, because I had no idea that you were from the UK.
Yeah.
When did you lose your accent?
So I would say that was probably maybe a year into being in the U.S.
Do you still do it when you call family? That's
Yeah,
back
I
home?
mean, so I'm from the north of England, so
Is that like Cockney?
yeah.
Like,
So he'd be
fresh
like,
in your drink, governor.
no, that's the south. So like
Okay.
where I'm from, it'd
Oh,
be like,
excuse me.
you'd say like, "You're right, mate. Yeah, you want to go? Go watch some football. We go to the pub, right? Get some beer, right? That's how we do it.
You sound like you're doing like the worst impression of it.
That's
and
how it
you
is.
used to speak it.
No, I mean, look, all right. If I go over to England for like 2 weeks, it will snap in. All right, I'm not being judged for my English accent. This is terrible.
Oh man.
Actually, people a lot of times think I'm from Boston because I do like there's certain words like certain or like certainly.
I do that when I'm sipping my Chianti. I'm like,
certainly. No, so but yeah, I think the other thing is too is like I don't necessarily look like I'm from England. So like when I play a lot of soccer, and where I live in the Midwest, pretty much all the soccer leagues are Mexican. So like I get confused with Mexican a lot. So when I tell the Mexican guys, like, hey, I'm from England, they're like,
well, you're dark too.
Yeah, they'd be
I
like-
thought you were like probably part Mexican or quarter
Yeah.
Mexican.
so it's
UK?
like
No.
trying to tell people, hey, I'm from England, and they're like, where? And I'm from Blackpool. They're like,
But you know what?
do you know
People
Nigel?
from different areas actually do look different.
It's amazing. It is amazing. So yeah. So I think, and then I think when I was younger, when people be like, "Oh, where are you from?" because I sounded different, then I realized like the next 10 years of my life is going to be explaining to people that I'm from England and then having to prove I'm from England. So I was like, you know what? What's up? What's up, dude? And then I just
No, that
switched
makes it
into-
worse.
No, that was. I came home to my dad. I'm like, "What's up?" He's like, "What?" He's like, "What does that mean?"
Oh yeah, because he kept. If you're older, you usually
Yeah.
keep it.
Yeah.
I had a friend growing up that I think he moved from the UK when he was like 12 or something like
Yeah.
that, and it was when South Park was on with this kid Pip,
Oh yeah.
and so we're like, "Hey Pip."
Perfect.
Yeah, there's a little bit of bullying there, but all right, I got to ask you because I'm asking everybody, what do you think is going on with recruiters right now? Like, what is the current situation? Because it's nuts.
Look, I think any type of outreach, so whether you're recruiting, whether you're in sales, whatever it is, you have to understand that everything is loud and noisy. So any shiny tool that has AI or that has automation, everybody else has the same thing. So the real challenges right now is looking at how are you building a brand that people will recognize so your outreach will actually go through. So I think right now everybody's inboxes are exploding, whether that's their in-mails, their emails, text messages, phone, every channel is getting exploded. So unless you have like a brand that people notice,
Yep.
it's going to be hard to get through.
Everything's diluted.
Everything's
so like
diluted.
LinkedIn is getting to the point where it's diluted. In-mails don't work anymore. Regular emails don't really work anymore.
Yeah.
I kind of liken it to like how often do you answer your phone now when you don't recognize the number?
I mean, I'm on do not disturb all the time, salespeople, just so you know. Yeah, so I think that's a piece, and then I think there's just a fascination with chasing shiny tools and like looking at like are there ways that we can hack certain things, and I think what's kind of what we need to lean into is more of like true relationship and community, and I mean community not in the sense of like just some weird like digital community that isn't actually in touch. But like, how do you really make connections with people? How do you genuinely find them? And so I think that's what we need to be leaning into more versus like, oh, is there some tool that can solve and like kind of hack through that relationship, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it's like so a lot of the AI stuff out there right now is like how can we so there's companies that do it right and then there's some that kind of take it like cutting corners. And they're just trying to get speed.
Yeah.
And when you try to just do speed, you'll lose quality.
Exactly.
And so, like, I'm hoping that when, AI's here to stay. We know that. But when, like, the focus kind of shifts away from that a little bit, that maybe we'll have that human interaction.
Yeah.
And whoever that vendor is out there or company that is really talking one-to-one with people, that's where you can really make a good hire.
Yeah, look, I think it's another thing I've been thinking about a lot is I just think work culture in general, we've gotten into a place, and I think about this with employer branding, where we've created these like almost like a vision of this perfect workplace. And so when I think of an employer branding, even it's like it's so polished that if you go into that environment, you're going to be disappointed. So I think trying to just, I mean, I'm the realist recruiter, right? So like, what does that even mean? Well, it's authenticity. It's trying to like lift up like this veil of what's going on and just give people real information. And so I think it's leaning into that within your recruitment process and just, yeah, adding more of those people to people interactions that are authentic versus trying to just outsource and like constantly try to make things like quicker, better, or like hacking through the relationship. So
Yeah, well,
lean into that stuff.
if you're a sales guy and you're looking to sell something, please reach out to Joel. He loves sales emails.
Yeah, especially with my name in a subject line. That's really smart. I love that.
Or the format that's like, I really liked your interest in blank. It's like a Mad Libs.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is like it's like personalization isn't personalization when technology is doing it. That's just weird. It's like when people reach out to me and they're like, I noticed the work you did with the realist recruiter where you use innovative recruiting strategies. I'm like, that's not personalization.
Buzzword bingo.
That's just some AI tool that pulls that sentence out of my LinkedIn profile. It's like show interest, be actually personal with what you're doing.
Read your communications before you send them out.
Exactly. Exactly.
So anyway, thanks for joining me on the show.
Great
I look
to be
forward
here.
to hanging out with you more this year. I think we're going to be at Transform together.
Yeah.
But thank you for joining me. Check out Joel on TikTok and everywhere else that he is.
Realist recruiter.
All right.
Thanks, Mike.
No problem.